So today on Planet M, we have Colton Dane,
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. You're a fashion designer, 21 years old.
That's correct.
Okay, and when I read your bio, you basically started your dream at 6?
At 6, I started working professionally in the theater and opera. First in the opera in Portland, where I'm from, and then I moved to musical theater. At 9, I got my first role in an independent film, Addison's Wall. Started doing national commercials, did a few feature films, and guest star roles.
Question, did your parents know right away that you were kind of a performer and a talented person?
Absolutely. I was a performer since I was about 3 years old.
Oh my God. So when did you make the transition from acting into fashion design?
That was not until I moved to Los Angeles in 2011 after graduating high school. Okay. I went to SMC for 2 years with fashion merchandising and marketing. And then I met my business partner, Charles Christopher, and we decided to launch our company a year later.
So most people at 21, or no, how old were you when you launched it?
When we launched, I was 20.
Okay, so most people at 20 have a dream and they have a vision, but they don't think they can actually do it, especially in fashion design. It's incredibly competitive.
It's a difficult industry.
Yes, we'll go into that in a minute. I want to know, how did you know at 20 years old that you had a very unique style and that you can make it successful in business?
Well, I've always loved fashion. I've always had a personal sense of style. I never dreamed that I would actually become a fashion designer. It wasn't even something I thought about. And growing up in the opera and the theater with the grandiose sets and the beautiful costumes that were all handmade by these costumiers, I was always inspired. I was always my eyes were everywhere watching and trying to learn. And me and Charles decided that we wanted to make a business together, and we thought, what better way to do that than through fashion design?
So you were interested in the way women dressed, because you right now just have
a women's life. Of course, always.
Okay, always, okay. You were interested, and you grew up around over the top. But what you actually do is very classy, glamorous outfits. I mean, they're both approachable as well as we've got TV stars, wearing this.
We walk a fine line between having very eccentric and couture style detailing, but we are a ready-to-wear line. So we are here to sell our clothes to major department stores. And when I'm designing the clothes, that's always in the back of my mind. I'd love to have a couture line and be able to do these grandiose dresses and grandiose shows. But right now, since we are in the launching process, I do have to simmer it down and, of course, make money. We are a business.
So when you started the business, did you just get a business loan?
No, actually, we were very fortunate to raise money from our family members and friends.
And that's real support.
It's very supportive. My family has always been very supportive in me. They signed me up for acting classes when I was 5 years old. They always knew, and they've been the most supportive people I could ever ask for.
Did you go to them and show them all the designs that you wanted to, go and basically create?
A fashion line is a very hard thing to raise money for. In its early stages, all you have is an idea and talking points. So in the beginning, yes, my parents and Charlie's parents and my grandma were the people who truly believed in me and were able to put in the money. We're currently in the middle of a very large capital raise that we are raising from outside investors.
Okay, so
now that we have a product, we have progress, and we have stuff to show. And
when you got your first check at 20 years old, for a design that you had created, did you just die?
It was an amazing moment for us. Unfortunately, because it is a business, because the fashion industry is so seasonal and things change so quickly, we haven't seen a large profit yet. We are currently still, like I said, in the capital raise, so we're hoping to in the next year or two.
So how did you get your designs on with TV stars like Maria Menounos?
Menounos.
Yeah, I'm not very
from
good at
Extra,
saying.
Yes. We've been very fortunate to work with Janie Lepati, who is our brand placement representative. She was the director of PR for Juicy Couture for 8 years. She got the Juicy sweatsuit on practically every celebrity in Hollywood, Britney Spears, every single person. And she really had a liking to our line, and she really believes in us, and she's given us some amazing support and some amazing celebrities.
But in the end, it has to be the woman that decides, they have to like it.
Absolutely. When they're in a fitting, they have a room that is huge, that is stacked with clothes. And so when they end up picking our stuff, when we do see it on Conan O'Brien when Julie Bowen wore our dress during an interview for that, when we saw Bellamy Young from Scandal wearing our overcoat to her visit in DC, it is really an empowering moment for us because we know that we did something correct.
Well, and that's a fine line today because everything is driven by celebrity,
Absolutely.
right? And what if it was all driven by art? The bottom line is that you have great designs. It's interesting how you make your stuff classic and sexy at the same time.
So when I'm designing our collections, I really design for something that is going to be beautiful. I don't focus on what current trends are. And I design for something that a woman wants to wear. And what do women want? They want to be beautiful. They want to feel confident and they want to feel sexy. And kind of like you said, I don't think sexy is necessarily showing too much skin or being overly flirtatious. I believe that sexy is confidence. And I believe that when a woman wears our clothes, her confidence really radiates.
Well, I love your confidence for a 21-year-old. I can't wait to be wearing that soon. But I guess the next question I would say, how do you get those ideas? Do you look through magazines? Do they just come through your mind? I'm really fascinated to know the creative process of every artist.
It's a little bit of everything what you just said. I am inspired by everything, whether it be photography, nature, other designers and their past collections, or even individuals. I'm very much inspired by individual women and their empowerment.
Who would you say would be one of your favorite fashion designers or favorite women to wear great clothing?
Fashion designers, I mean, there's so many greats out there. There's Tom Ford. There is even more local designers like Monique Leliere, who has really been pushed to the next level in the last couple of years. And I think her stuff is just absolutely beautiful.
I don't know her. And then a woman that would wear the clothing that you would most dream to have wear your clothing, or that you think is great in fashion in general.
Because of the stylist, there are a lot of beautiful women. Someone who I think is very empowered is, of course, Beyonce herself. And that would be a dream for me to have something on her on the red carpet. Or hopefully in the near future, maybe even someone like Sofia Vergara or someone during the Emmys.
From the design until it's actually on in the store, what happens?
So we have a 12-month sales cycle. The first and second months are really starting when we are searching and sourcing for our fabrics and we're sketching. So we meet with our fabric representatives who represent mills throughout Europe and the UK. And that's really the start of my ideas. I really am inspired by fabric. I will take things home with me when I'm in that creative process, and I can really envision garments the minute I see a fabric. And
really? It just comes to you right away the second you see the
Right away. When I can touch and feel and see a fabric, that's the instance that I can design a piece for it.
Wow.
Right. And then after that, once we meet with our pattern maker, we really start a development process. We have our fittings, we make our fit samples and bring in our fit model.
Do you have to go through the economics before that? Like you look at that actual, because artists often, like yourself, don't want to think about money. Once you get that garment, do you have to think about how much it's going to cost to make it before you go to fittings?
I think it's more with the fabrics that we have to do that because we do use such luxurious fabrications from Paris, from Italy.
Okay, so we talked about the process, the garment, you immediately get inspired, then you go and work with the patterns, and then to actually get it done, where do you actually produce it?
Right now we're producing in Los Angeles.
Yay, American made!
Exactly, and eventually when we expand, we'll expand to New York.
Okay.
So it will still be very American made, and then eventually probably over to Italy.
Wow, okay. And what is usually the price point for your outfits? Give me the range.
For our fall 14, which will be hitting stores in a few months, our price point was anywhere from $250 to $1,200.
Okay, and where could we find your patterns or your wonderful clothing? Can they order directly through you on your website?
We're not currently doing any e-commerce. You can also find us at Marcia, which is in Boca Raton, Florida.
Okay, great. And the one thing that seems to be incredibly important to me is to know the long-term vision of any artist. And since you're so young, where do you envision a Paris runway? You obviously have talked about Beyonce, but let's just talk about the average woman in America. Where would you see her in your dream?
I think I see ourselves being eventually an international label, expanding to handbags, shoes, fragrances, jewelry, and then of course eventually to menswear.
Okay, is there anything you're not gonna do?
I guess we'll see.
Okay. And one really important question: when you're doing, when you're expanding, right, in the price point, is it ever going to change? Do you think?
Our price point right now is currently going up. We're taking up the Luxe level, but eventually we'll be having a diffusion line.
Okay.
Kind of like a Mark by Marc Jacobs
Okay.
or a Hugo Boss.
Okay. Have you ever met with adversity in your life to know about the ups and downs of life and sometimes how they can help you?
My dad actually just passed away a few months ago, which has
I'm
been
sorry.
very, very difficult. But in a way, it really has given me a lot of strength, and it's really inspired me to make the most out of my life and the short time that we have here.
Yeah, and then to know that at 21, how much you have ahead and how much opportunity you have to work at what you love to do. Spiritually, do you see your designs coming to you spiritually? Are you spiritual about what you put out there? I'm just always fascinated about the spiritual and the creative process.
I am a spiritual person. I did grow up spiritually. And I think the creative process in no matter what field or industry you're in is a little bit spiritual. Being in fashion, it is so quick moving and it can be at times materialistic. And I always have to remind myself, we are all here on the planet. We're all here to live a better life. And that sometimes I have to kind of calm myself down and take things slow and really appreciate the things around me.
And realize you're putting your art out there, but not necessarily. Does it make a difference if anybody embraces it, which you're being embraced at a very young age? The truth is you're doing what you love, right?
Absolutely.
Every day, and you look extremely happy.
Oh, I am more than happy right now.
Yeah, and to be 21 and to be starting at this place, that you're pretty lucky, but obviously you have the talent. So it's wonderful to meet you, Colton.
It's a pleasure meeting you too. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for sharing. I'm planning it down.